John O'Keefe was a respected Boston police officer, a man devoted to his badge, his family, and those closest to him. At the center of his life was Karen Reed, a financial analyst with whom he shared a complicated, passionate relationship. Their romance, marked by both affection and turbulence, would ultimately become the focal point of a murder case that captured the nation. On a bitter January night in 2022, O'Keefe's body was found lifeless in the snow outside 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Authorities charged Karen Reed with his murder, alleging she struck him with her SUV in a drunken rage. But Reed and her supporters claimed a cover-up, suggesting he was beaten inside the home by someone else. Her first trial in 2024 ended in a hung jury, dividing the public and igniting a firestorm of controversy. Now, with her retrial underway, the courtroom has become a battleground, not just for justice, but for truth in a case where love, loss, and suspicion collide.
Live from downtown Dedham, Massachusetts, the site of the Karen Reed retrial, this is Closing Arguments. And now here is your host, Vinnie Politan.
Welcome to Closing Arguments. Great to have you with us tonight. We've got a live studio audience here in Dedham, just steps from the courthouse, where the Karen Reed retrial of the century continues. And we've got a lot to get to in this hour and in the following hour. By the way, this live audience, they will have an opportunity for comments and questions in a case that has been so divisive, a case where people have such strong opinions, including colors. If you've noticed, I'm wearing a purple tie, and I'm getting comments. Vinny, why all the purple ties? Well, there's a reason for it, and it's this particular case. Karen Reed supporters have chosen the color pink, so if I'm wearing a pink tie, someone is going to say, well, you know what Vinny thinks about this case. Meanwhile, the anti-Karen Reed folks, the folks supporting the blue, are literally wearing blue in this case. So I've got like 50 blue ties that I'm not wearing. I'm splitting the baby. It'll be purple for the next several months or whenever this case wraps up. And that gives you an idea of just how divisive this story and this case has become. And in this retrial, I said retrial, right? Because the second trial, a little different than the first. Some would say a lot different from the first. And we are getting new evidence in this second trial. So let's bring in Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who is here in studio with us. Matt, great to see you.
Always great to see you, Vinny.
Welcome
to Dedham.
Yeah, it's great to be in Dedham with all these great folks who are here tonight. So, new evidence. This second trial, you were there for the whole first trial.
Right.
Now we're here in the second trial, and today, new video of Brian Higgins.
Now, this is video that we learned about. We learned about this in the fall during one of those pretrial hearings, and we learned that the defense was handed over this brand new video from Canton PD, the Sallyport area as well, but of Brian Higgins, one of the main people of this trial, one of the three that the defense initially wanted to use for third-party defense. So let's play the video. This is what aired in court earlier today. So, and it's really a span of something like 20 minutes. You see Brian Higgins walking through the hallways.
And this is all after he leaves 34 Fairview.
This is right after he leaves 34 Fairview. So this starts at around 1:27 in the morning on January 29th, 2022. There he is on his phone. That's a big moment. Alan Jackson was talking about that quite a bit. We're going to hear more about that and how that plays into their timeline with third party here. But he's out moving a car. He's getting into another unit that's parked out there in the parking lot. This is in Canton PD. And then he gets back into his Jeep that has the plow on the front, and he drives away.
Okay, so a lot of focus on Brian Higgins today, but he wasn't the witness.
Isn't that interesting? We haven't heard from him yet on this trial. He's one of the main players that we have yet to hear from.
So all this cross-examination is coming through Buchanan.
Yeah, Yuri Buchanan, who has really taken the role of all of the police information and evidence in this case so far.
That's fascinating,
right.
because last time it was so different.
Because it was Trooper Proctor that was considered lead, and that word lead was used quite a bit, not so much this time around, when Buchanan is really taking over that umbrella and that role, and was kind of going through these text messages between Karen Reed and Brian Higgins. They were a little bit cringy.
Right.
They were the flirty texts. Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And now, you know, he also went through this video that is brand new for this second jury.
And it seems that the defense was laying out part of their theory of a motive here for Brian Higgins.
Absolutely. We were seeing that today, and that was a big, big moment, if not a bombshell, in court today, Vinny, because for the very first time, we're hearing more about the defense theory, and they're naming names, and they are really pointing to the motive behind their theory. You know, we've heard about the Waterfall Bar, how the gentlemen were acting inside that bar, and then now the defense alleging that there was some bad blood, that Brian Higgins, who they're trying to accuse of third party, was actually kind of, you know, hostile towards John O'Keefe at one point in time with a hand gesture. Now, that's coming from Alan Jackson, defense attorney, today, and he motioned that to the witness today. But it's really leading up to what they're saying is jealousy, you know, a love triangle, so to speak. And let's play a shot from court today.
Did you, in your mind, in your opinion, after having read those texts, find a motive for Brian Higgins to perhaps want to confront John O'Keefe because of jealousy?
If you're asking for my opinion is that he would need to confront Mr. O'Keefe. Mr. O'Keefe was not the one pursuing Mr. Higgins. It was your client that was pursuing Mr. Higgins.
Did you pull the tape at the waterfall and review the tape as we did here in court?
That happened, yes.
Do you remember a circumstance on that tape where Brian Higgins pulled his arm away and looked past Chris Albert over toward the bar, which is where John O'Keefe was standing? See that?
I do remember you pointing that out, but we couldn't tell him who exactly he was looking at based on the video.
Did you see a circumstance in which Brian Higgins then put his hand on his forehead and began rubbing his forehead like this?
I don't have a memory of that.
Did you see a circumstance in which he then motioned over toward that side of the bar with his left hand?
That I remember, yes.
Did that seem realistic to you? Let me ask it a different way. Did that seem to you as a reasonable interpretation? Hey, come on outside. Come here.
Very reasonable, since they've been invited to 34 Fairview.
Did it look, in your opinion, that that was just a, hey, let's go together? Or did it look more to you like, hey, come outside? Or let's step outside?
The totality of the investigation, the fact that when they stepped outside, there was no confrontation and they were invited to the address. Again, totality of the investigation suggests otherwise.
You would agree, as a homicide investigator, not every death starts off as an intended murder, correct?
I will agree to that.
Sometimes a fight could go wrong, and you intend to fight and duke it out. Something goes wrong, something goes south, and someone dies, correct?
Objection.
All right, Vinny and the studio audience in here with us, take a look at the screen right here. So this is the gesturing that is going on there in the waterfall. A lot more focus this year with Alan Jackson on this cross-examination. I don't think that it was as much of an emphasis during trial number one, but he is saying that there was, you know, some bad blood between these two, and there's more to the story here.
I wish we had audio. Like everything else, these big moments, either the video's a little grainy, the audio isn't there. And this is significant. The focus is absolutely changing here. Now let's talk about one other big change in trial two and trial one. Everyone's talking about it. I know everyone here tonight is thinking about it. Trooper Proctor. Any update on whether we expect former trooper Proctor to testify.
Yeah, that's one of the two big questions, right? Will we hear from Brian Higgins or Brian Albert, who are the third-party culprits that they're trying to bring in, right? And then also Trooper Proctor and all of the things that have happened since trial number one. You know, since he was suspended, since he was fired. And now you have Buchanan that's reading the text messages that he sent to his friends and family and coworkers and superiors. Here's part of that.
Michael Proctor then responded, and he responded to the group, "Funny, I'm going through his client's phone," correct?
That's what it says, yes.
Michael Proctor then responded again. He wrote, "No nudes so far," correct?
That's what it says, yes.
And in reference to Mr. Yannetti's photograph, he wrote, "I hate that man. I truly hate him."
So that was a big signal right there that you don't have actually Trooper Proctor reading his own words this year. And that's the reason why I was asking Karen Reed outside the courthouse, and we were the first to report this, that, you know, I said, do you think that he's going to be called? And she said, nope. And I said, well, what about the defense? Will you guys call him? And she said, TBD. And she doubled down on that, Vinny, after court as well.
Yeah, but if the defense is getting all the stuff in, they may not want to call him either.
We'll
just leave him out there as the fired boogeyman kind of thing. All right, Matt Johnson, always doing a great job. Thanks so much. Let's get some analysis. Let's bring in our trial insiders. Joining me in studio tonight, yeah, it looks a little bit like the Man Show, but it is what it is. Joining us in studio tonight, criminal defense attorney Joseph Krowski Jr. Also with us, the host and creator of Road Patrol Live, John DePietro is with us. They're on this side. In the corner to my left, we've got criminal defense attorney Peter Ellikin and Karen Reed supporter Nick Rocco. Great to have you all here. And I just want to throw this out, but Nick, they're going after Higgins. What did you think of that video? Was that a threat? What's going on at the waterfall?
I mean, we all have eyes. You know, after 8 Jamesons, he's been texting Karen Reed. She ghosted him. She's not talking to him for a long time. Sends that "I'm well" text message. Clearly, he is mad. He's jealous that she's not answering him. She's not giving him the time of day. And you see it right here. Chris Albert has to hold his arm down. Brian Higgins is waving outside. Meanwhile, you know, at 12:20, John O'Keefe gets a text message. Where are you? Why didn't Brian text Karen? Are you coming here? He texted John specifically because he knows Karen hasn't been answering him. So that's interesting to me.
Oh, look, that's woefully insufficient. You called it a bombshell. What you omitted is that was lost in a full day of testimony where the prosecution was able to restate the facts in the probative evidence through Trooper Buchanan. Now, if you're going to talk about motives, certainly domestic situations are the cornerstone of motive cases. But we have the benefit of the text exchange between Karen and Higgins, and he never knew those would see the light of day. He was the one exercising restraint. He was the pursuee, not the pursuer. And on the night of the actual incident, the death of John O'Keefe, January 29th, if you just as an ATF agent bludgeon someone to death, are you going to go to the Canton police station where you know there are cameras in the same clothing that you were just wearing at the Waterfall restaurant to be filmed and not change your clothing? You're going to go, you're going to burn the clothing, you're going to bleach the car. There is no evidence. A gesture at a bar? Karen Reed's the one in the car with him for 6 minutes arguing at the site where her tail light was found at 34 Fairview.
First of all, I think it would be an excellent alibi to go to the Canton Police Department and be seen there, but also it is a credible motive. Not that it necessarily happened, but that would certainly be a motive. Not that the defense is not saying no, that he intentionally said I'm going to go out and murder him. But it is very believable that at that party, when people are drinking, there could be some words exchanged, some shoving, and you don't know. Somebody could punch somebody, or an unlucky hitting their head against the back of the wall, and so there could be a manslaughter, an accidental death that they try to cover up. But nobody's saying it's an intentional thing. Like, yes, we set out to do a murder.
Vinny, here's the thing. Now, everybody saw Brian Higgins was friends with John O'Keefe, invited over to the house, watch a Patriots game. Karen kisses him on the way out as she's texting him, and we had to hear all these embarrassing texts. She's telling him he's hot. It sounds like this is the first time anyone's ever told him he's hot. There's nothing there that she's following up on. He even mentions in the text that she has a quick trigger, right? When she said, oh, you know, the weed whacker joke. What you saw is a guy who's very passive, who is certainly not the aggressor with Karen Reed. To think that he would actually kill for her, I don't think it landed in the courtroom.
What if it's an accident? What if they didn't mean to, he didn't intend, and they're all drinking and words happen and they're shoving, etc.? You don't know that.
But third-party culprit evidence requires a substantial basis to get it before the jury so that you can even argue it. Right now, we're left with that gesture. Now, the other suggestion that was proffered by Attorney Jackson today was during cross-examination about the effects of alcohol. But that cuts both ways. That's a double-edged sword because his client...
Don't a lot of things cut both ways in his case?
Well, his client sitting there was the last one seen in the presence of John O'Keefe, had anywhere between 6 and 9 drinks, and had an argument with him in her car for 6 minutes, and his body was found at the general location where she said it would be found.
But there's not, you really can't believe anything that Brian Higgins had testified to in the first trial, because this video that we saw today, that when he went to go move vehicles in the parking lot, he got impeached. He didn't move any vehicles in that car and in the parking lot. He also stated that when he arrived at 34 Fairview Road, right, he left shortly after. He didn't stay there that long. But we see him arrive at 1:27 in the morning. 34 Fairview is about 5 minutes from Canton PD. So where was he for 42 minutes? The only place he was he was still hanging out at 34 Fairview because it wouldn't have taken him that long to get there.
All right, let's do this. Nick Rocco, as usual, has teed up the next segment perfectly. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Brian Higgins, take a closer look at the video. What does it mean? What does it prove? They're all staying with us. The audience is staying with us. We are live in Dedham, Massachusetts, with our coverage of the retrial of the century.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was free! We know who did it.
The Karen Reed Murder Retrial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Why did you go to the Canton Police Department that morning?
The morning when I left 34 Fairview, the Friday into Saturday?
Correct.
To move 2 vehicles.
There's been quite an evolution of that story over the years, has there not?
I don't understand the question.
All right, let's talk about that for a second. You had an initial interview with Massachusetts State Police on February 3rd, 2022.
Yes.
Correct? And you indicated during the course of that interview, which was just a couple of days, 5 days, after the events in question, that you left Brian Albert's house, went to Canton PD to, quote, fulfill some administrative obligations, end quote, correct? Mr. Higgins, you weren't actually at Canton PD to do administrative work at 1:30 in the morning, were you?
I was moving the vehicles. I'm sure it's on video.
Oh, it's on video, folks. It's absolutely on video. That was Brian Higgins in 2024, last year, testifying in the trial against Karen Reed, talking about what he was doing after he left 34 Fairview, where the after party was. He talked about going there and moving some cars. Now, Brian Higgins has not testified in this case. However, Trooper Buchanan is on the stand being cross-examined today about the videos that Brian Higgins referenced last year that are now a part of the trial this year. Talking about him being there. What exactly was he doing? Let's take a listen.
Do you recognize the person in this video?
It appears to be Mr. Brian Higgins.
Okay, and what is he wearing? Describe it for the jurors.
Black sweatshirt with some sort of logo on the front. It appears to be blue jeans and shoes with a white trim.
What do you see in that video?
It appears to be an individual wearing a black beanie hat, black dark colored sweatshirt with some design on it, and something illuminating by his face.
Can we enhance the time, please? What time is that?
It says 1:34 and 53 seconds. in the morning, a.m.
And if you could move the screen over to the individual, Mr. Walt. Does that appear to be the same person?
It could possibly be, yeah.
And does it appear as something in his hands up to his face, the right side of his face or ear?
Yes.
What do you think that is?
It's consistent with a cellular device, possibly a phone or a tablet.
Okay. If we could move on, please. Play that through. You would agree that this video pretty clearly shows, at least at one point, around 1:34 a.m., Brian Higgins was on his phone.
Is that the one that he has the device by his face?
Correct.
It appears that way, yes.
And just to be clear, when you interviewed Mr. Higgins, he did not volunteer to give you his phone, correct?
He did not volunteer, no.
And you didn't seek his phone through a warrant or any other mechanism?
I did not, no.
All right, let's bring back in our trial insiders. With me in studio, Joseph Krowski Jr., John DePietro, Peter Ellikin, and Nick Rocco. Who's he talking to? Who's he talking to on the phone?
We don't know. We don't even know if he's actually talking. But to put it in context, Brian Higgins was under contract, did have an obligation to go back to the Canton Police Department whenever it snowed to make sure his vehicles were taken care of. He's an ATF agent, and the chief of the Canton Police Department allowed him to have an office there and a few parking spots. Lo and behold, he shows up there. Again, I reiterate, you're not going to wear the same sweatshirt and same pants if it could contain trace DNA evidence. Now remember, as it relates to the vehicles, when he was texting back and forth with Karen, he wouldn't even go and have one drink with her when he said, "I've got my work truck." So there's evidence in there that this is a responsibility that he took really serious. These are vehicles that belong to the federal government. But again, that is not evidence of third-party culprit.
That was his story, that he went there solely to move a car. Why do we see him going inside the building, going up and down the hallways into an office, and then when he comes out, we never see him move a car? And the fact that we do see him on a phone, it kind of highlights the idea that why wasn't that ever looked into, who he was talking to at the time? Why didn't Buchanan or somebody get that phone and find out why at 1:35 in the morning? And then the fact that this video also helps with the timeline here, because supposedly shortly after then he's asleep and butt dialing when there's probably not even enough time for him to get home. So that really shows that his story and his testimony was a lie.
Vinny, inside the courtroom, we're all waiting, and suddenly when you see Higgins coming down the hallway, we're conditioned like a horror film. Something really dramatic is going to happen. Does he have a weapon? Does he have anything? And nothing. It's just a guy walking down the hallway of the police station. I think it was a big buildup, but then when we saw the video, it just didn't pan out.
No, because everybody has been following this trial like day in and day out, and everybody knows how Brian Higgins testified the first time. He went there to move vehicles. He said he left 34 Fairview shortly after everybody arrived. That means he would have been at the Canton Police Department around 12:50 or even, let's say, 1 in the morning. He didn't get there till 1:27 in the morning. So where was he? Again, I said it before. The only place he was still at 34 Fairview Road. And Joe, to your point, he went to go move federal government vehicles after 8 Jamesons? He should be fired. Fired.
He went to make sure that they were all set if that lot was going to be plowed, because that is property of the Canton Police Department. You have to make sure that there's no issue if they're going to plow. When he got there, let me finish, they were not plowing yet. He testified that he had been at 34 Fairview for approximately 1 hour. So the timeline does line up when he left the waterfall, got to 34 Fairview, and then went to the Canton Police Department. And you know, as a lawyer, if you had motioned to get his phone pursuant to Rule 17, there's not a judge based on that would have authorized an extraction of his cell phone.
Not based off that, because the Commonwealth didn't turn that over until the first trial was over. So they didn't even know about this until October when they got handed over.
That would have never warranted. There's not a judge in this
Why is there new evidence? So why are we having new evidence in a second trial?
Well, he kept it from them. It's that simple.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, but Nick, he didn't testify in this trial. And all the jurors know is this is the guy that Karen was texting with and reading it back and forth. We don't have him on the stand. So as much as they're trying to make him out to be like the boogeyman, I don't think it's impacting with the jury because Higgins is not inside that courtroom.
Also, remember, those texts and that information was offered for a limited non-hearsay purpose. It wasn't offered substantively. It was just offered to show Buchanan was aware of it and why didn't you further investigate it. And he was allowed to explain on recross-examination in painstaking detail, take the jury through all of the evidence they had accumulated at that point, including the I hit him, the damaged taillight, the debris field at the scene. All of that evidence. And again, if this was all things being equal, maybe, but you're leaving out the fact of what they found at 34 Fairview, the statements of the defendant, the damage of her car. In context, this little video footage, this little slice means nothing.
But that's not the only thing available. The one thing that has driven me crazy about this case, we always talk about, hey, what evidence do they have? Third-party culpability. Well, every time they had a chance to prove it, the evidence was tampered with. For example, all the cell phones of all the people in the house, every one of them was either thrown out or wiped out clean. The video there inside this, video inside the Sally port, you've got it cutting, and we didn't get it all. We got little pieces of it here and there. People pop in and out like magic. They disappear. Every time it gets close to that rear end of the SUV, it suddenly
here's what's happening,
disappears.
folks. This side is winning right now because Peter now has teed up the next segment. When we come back, we're going to take a look at that Sally Port video that was shown today. Plus, we are going to hear the comments and questions from our live studio audience. We're in Dedham, Massachusetts, covering the retrial of the century.
In the corrected video, this video here, this unequivocally shows that Michael Proctor walked toward the right rear area of that SUV, where the right taillight is, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And welcome back to our coverage of the retrial of the century. We are here in downtown Dedham, Massachusetts, live studio audience with us. We've also got Joseph Krauske Jr., we've got John DePietro, Peter Ellikin, and Nick Rocco helping us out tonight. I want to take a listen to some more testimony from Sergeant Buchanan, talking again about the infamous Sally Port video.
Pause. Do you see Michael Proctor in this video?
I believe that's him, yes.
And which side, and let's start with this. Do you agree that this is the correct version of the camera angle and the SUV as it pulled into the Sally Port?
This is the footage, the way that is depicted right now is very accurately very accurately represents what I remember from being there.
In fact, this side of the vehicle that we're looking at that's closest to us, that I'm highlighting on the screen to your right, that is in fact the driver's side of the vehicle, not the passenger side of the vehicle. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The far side over here would be the right rear of the vehicle, correct?
Yes, sir.
Which area is Michael Proctor walking to? The left rear or the right rear in this footage?
It appears if that's him, he's walking to the right rear of the vehicle.
Can we play this forward? And do you see Mr. Proctor's head above the SUV?
Yes.
And watch him as the tow truck driver walks by. Did he appear to move?
He shifted weight, yes.
And it appears that there's another person that showed up in the footage, an anomaly of some sort, walking off screen left to right. Is that right?
That's what it appears, yes.
Is Mr. Proctor still at the right rear taillight area?
He's in that general vicinity, yes.
Let's go ahead and play it forward. A little bit further. Pause. Can you see anything in his hand? Let me just ask it closed in. Do you see the portfolio in his hand?
It would not be unlikely that it's there, but I can't tell exactly what it is in his hand.
Let's play it forward. Do you see anything in his hand now as his arm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does it appear to be consistent with the black portfolio that we saw earlier?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes.
The Sally Port video, there it is. Take it for what it's worth. It's a big part of the defense. You're talking about opportunity for everything that the defense is alleging here. But right now, as I mentioned, we've got a live studio audience here in Dedham, Massachusetts. Matt Johnson is with them. Matt, questions and comments tonight. What do we got?
All right, we already have a few people lining up, and these are folks that know this case inside and out like you at home. And like you at home, they have a lot of questions. So I have Nicole here, Vinny. She's from Hudson, who's just outside of Boston. You watched the first trial. What is your question for Vinny or the panel?
I have a question for the attorneys. So, we saw Yuri a lot more this week than we did last year. We learned a little bit about him, and we learned that this week is a big week for him. So he's 10 years with MSP, I think Friday, but also congratulations because he landed himself on the Brady list this week as of this morning. So my question is, who would put someone on the Brady list, and what are the implications for that?
So I guess I can answer that. Are you suggesting that?
Wait, first tell us what the Brady list is.
Sure, the Brady list in Massachusetts is a list that is required to be maintained by every district attorney's office throughout the Commonwealth. If there are sustained allegations made against an investigating officer, if there is prior misconduct that has not just been alleged but sustained, district attorneys and their officers and their assistant district attorneys are required to disclose that, not just to the public on a public list, the post-commission list, but also to specific attorneys in specific cases. I don't really understand the import of your question, whether or not someone on the Brady list can still continue to function and operate as a police officer.
Well, what would be the implications going forward for Buchanan with now being included on the Brady list?
So it's really a question of degree, right? As I understand, Buchanan, like a lot of the state troopers in this case, was vetted probably more than any state trooper in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the only allegation that was sustained against Buchanan is that he was on a text thread chain where Proctor had said some things or texted some things that were not professional. But the flip side of that is through that thorough investigation and vetting, there's not a single allegation or sustained allegation that Buchanan planted evidence, conspired to frame someone, lied under oath, or otherwise conducted any malfeasance or engaged in any malfeasance or misconduct. So that actually, look, there's a little blemish in there.
You're saying not a big deal.
But that's not a... In this case, that finding not a big deal.
I think, yeah, even if they don't have him doing something illegal, what's come out again and again in this second trial is that he's done all kinds of shoddy police work, and he's also trying to defend what went on. I mean, I was so surprised that he kept defending Proctor when they kept asking him about Proctor, and when they said, oh, so you said he was a utmost professionalism, and you gave him this shining report and said, integrity, et cetera. And instead of backing off, and maybe he would have been more honest and appealing to the jury if he said, yeah, I was wrong on that. I see he did some things that I wouldn't have done. But instead, he sort of, gets in bed with the guy.
How do you see these two? We have Proctor and Buchanan next to each other. Nick, do you see them as equally, what's the word I'm looking for? Culpable in all of this? Or do you see Proctor more culpable?
There's a reason why we don't see Michael Proctor on the stand, right? Hank Brennan is petrified to call him because he is going to single-handedly destroy the Commonwealth's case in theory. He had his name on every single piece of paper that you could have your name on as the lead investigator. He's being accused of planting the taillight. He is the one that is behind the taillight with 42 minutes missing. If that camera was not missing, the footage was not missing in the Sally Port, case closed, it would have shown the taillight in the condition it was. Michael Proctor didn't take any pictures. Yuri Buchanan didn't take any pictures of the supposed murder weapon. Nobody took pictures of it. But there is one honest cop in this whole situation, and that's the Dighton police officer, Nicholas Barros, and we'll hear from him this trial.
The sergeant did well with the jury, and him doing the text messages, reading both Karen and Brian Higgins, he seemed like a good sport. He finished very strong.
So
let's go to. You got to go back to Matt. I hate to cut off Joseph Krasky Jr., but sometimes you have to. just for time purposes. Matt, what do you got?
Yeah, and I will also say with Buchanan, he said on the stand that he actually had to give 5 vacation days. He was reprimanded during this investigation. But I also have Grace with me. Where are you from? And you also watched Trial 1. What's your question for our panel?
I'm from Danvers. My question is sort of a general comment and a question about Chloe. She's not mentioned very often. I'm wondering why, if she was there at the house, she wasn't barking her head off, as the neighbor you interviewed had a lot to say about her. And where do you think she is? I heard rumors that the prosecution was bringing in a mold of her teeth or her mouth. Have you heard anything like that? And can we expect to see anything with regard to Chloe?
Well, they offered to do it. The prosecution offered to bring it in and have the defense witness measure up her jaw. The defense declined to do that. Now, keep in mind, it was a howling night, and there's still no evidence. I know some people want to focus on the dog. No dog DNA. Notice his neck wasn't bitten. Notice his leg wasn't bitten if he was attacked. But the bottom line is John O'Keefe never made it inside that house.
First off, there's no dog DNA because Michael Proctor is the one who swabbed his shirt. They didn't even swab his arm. They sent 2 Q-tips to the lab. He could have swabbed any part of that shirt. That's number 1. Number 2, the defense did not get invited to go to Vermont. The state police went out to Vermont, okay? In the report, the defense team was told that Mary, this person, you know, by the name of Mary, received this dog. And then that person, Mary, gave the dog to somebody else who renamed it Cora. There's no transfer papers. There's no documents to prove that that German Shepherd is actually Chloe. And then Jen McCabe goes upstairs. This dog doesn't bark, doesn't make a peep. The dog most likely wasn't there. It was probably taken out that night or night before. But listen.
And this isn't a lawyer comment. This is a dog lover comment. Who keeps a dog for 6 or 7 years and then suddenly rehomes it and gets rid of it? It's always a part of the family.
Okay, so this is one of those salacious allegations that was made against the Alberts, like many of the allegations. The dog was buried under the swimming pool, and then the swimming pool was filled in. No, the dog lives. If you watch the pretrial litigation, the Commonwealth said on the record that they would make the dog available for an expert of their own. The defense declined to do so after crying about it for a year that they had no access to the dog. Let me finish. Obviously, when the state police were doing their investigation, and investigations are ongoing, they had to go out and vet and make sure it was the right dog, and I'm sure it probably has a chip in it. Once they were satisfied that it was the right dog and they issued that report, they then made it available for Dr. Russell or any expert of their choosing to go and conduct any type of in-person measurements and testing, forensic testing they wanted to, and they declined. But the dog lives. It was just another ugly rumor lodged against people that turned out to be not true.
You have zero proof that that's the real dog. There's zero proof.
Well, they do. If you read the reports, it's chipped. They can validate it's a dog. You don't think that
you can validate it's a dog. We all know it's a dog.
You don't think they're going to bring in a mold of a dog that this expert that they have hasn't validated he's working with the exact dog? Of course they did.
But the expert said it was a dog,
though. The dog's alive.
But I haven't heard many people say the dog was not alive, but you had a very, very credible expert saying that those were dog bites. And as anybody can see, I think the public can see, it does not look like you got bumped by a car and you've got all those numerous scratches there on your arm that suddenly you hit the arm and you fly through the air 30 feet when your torso was just fine and you just flew through the air like that.
Let's do this. We have another question and comment. Matt?
Yeah, that's right. So I have Roseanne here, and you're from the Berkeley area here in Massachusetts. You also watched trial number 1. You very animated during the answers right there. But what is on the top of your mind right now?
So I do want to ask both of the attorneys, what are your thoughts on all of the coincidences? And the reason why I say coincidences in plural is because there are so many. Starting with the dog again, the dog being gone at 6 in the morning seems very strange to me. The fact that Brian Albert and Brian Higgins' phones both happen to be destroyed and gone and changed their numbers. Let's see, the fact that the taillights didn't show up until February. The fact that Chief Berkowitz supposedly found the taillight and not the owners of the house who live there and had multiple opportunities to be out in their yard and find taillight. Let's see, there's actually many, but those are to name a few. What are your thoughts on, oh, let me add one more. Oh, the fact that they sold their house for $50,000 under asking price within a short period of time, selling a home in a market that was booming. Instead, they decided to take a loss on their home. That seems like way too many coincidences for me from somebody who's supposed to be completely innocent. Oh, let me add one more to the mix. Why didn't Brian Albert come out of his house, a first responder? The house is 30 feet from the lawn. I live in the same exact kind of house. My house is 75 feet from where John O'Keefe's body would be. I absolutely would have heard fire trucks, fire ambulances. I don't care how soundly I sleep. Okay.
Vinny, that was a lot. All right, so, Vinny?
10 seconds. 10 seconds each.
The coincidences that should concern you is the woman driving the car last seen with John O'Keefe had pieces of her taillight, a glass, a straw, a hat, and a sneaker found in the location where she said he would be found. His health data from his phone had
10. Peter.
All right, this is the bottom line. You hit it on the head. This is what we call reasonable doubt. Exactly. When a jury hears all this, point out.
Great job. Great job by everyone. Nick Rocco, Peter Ellikin, John DePietro, Joseph Krowski Jr. Great job. Studio audience is staying here. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV. As Sean Diddy Combs faces a federal jury, Court TV's Kelly Craft is live from New York.
It was an emotional day in court.
With every development, the Diddy sex trafficking trial, live updates on Court TV.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board and what's going on in the world of crime and justice. Oh boy, day one for Diddy in New York City. Big trial. Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft is in New York and has the latest for us tonight.
Hi there, Vinny. The government's first day of its criminal trial against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs was filled with graphic descriptions of sexual encounters and how Combs' demands were impossible, forcing women to engage in sex acts, and if they didn't want to, he used violence to make them do it. Sean Combs in court this first day of his trial. He was wearing a light gray sweater, standing when defense counsel gave her opening statement, and when she said, "This is Sean Combs." That's the name he was born with. He's from here in New York, Harlem. And she said the government has no business in Sean Combs' private bedroom. We heard from the government, though, that Sean Combs made women like Cassie Ventura and another woman named Jane wear high platform heels, have their nails painted white, dress in lingerie, and as characters as he watched them engage in drug-induced sexual encounters called freak-offs. They would last from 1 to 10 hours. The second witness of the day, Daniel Phillips, a male stripper, testified that Cassie Ventura, the state's star witness, hired him to have sex with her in front of Diddy. He shared with the jurors graphic details, saying that he urinated on her after she requested him to do so. He testified, "We had sex. She had asked me if I was comfortable rubbing baby oil on her. We rubbed the oil on each other first and then had sex, and Mr. Combs was in the corner masturbating." The government asked, how long did the encounter last? He said, not long. And Vinny, proceedings get back underway here in New York at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. That's the latest from here. Kelly Craft, back to you.
All right, Kelly Craft in New York, and obviously at Court TV, while we're covering the Karen retrial, we We'll continue to give you the latest in the Diddy trial as well. Right now, though, I need you to take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is Lana Mason, missing since May 8th of this year out of Patantuck, Mississippi. Just 18 years old. If you see Lana, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. Let's see if we can get Lana to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime here from Dedham, Massachusetts. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.